First of all, the key question for me with all this, especially when I was reading your book, how much do you think we know and how much do you think we don't know about what's out there?
In the universe, it's 96% of what's driving the universe.
Neil deGrasse Tyson has always been known for his ability to translate the profound complexities of the cosmos into concepts that capture both the imagination and the fears of ordinary people. When he steps forward with new information, the world tends to pause, knowing that what he delivers is not just science, but an invitation to understand how the universe directly intersects with human survival. This time, his announcement centered on the enigmatic interstellar object 3E Atlas, and the revelations were nothing short of chilling. It wasn't merely another rock drifting through the infinite dark, it was a message carved in the language of celestial mechanics about how fragile our place in the universe truly is. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. 3I Atlas first drew attention as an oddity, an interstellar traveler passing through the solar system much like its predecessors, Oumuamua and Borisov. Yet unlike those earlier objects, Atlas carried with it patterns of behavior and streams of data that refused to fit comfortably within scientific expectations. Tyson's revelations peeled back the curtain on these anomalies, revealing trajectories, structural signatures, and energetic emissions that pointed to something far more menacing than a harmless lump of ice or stone brushing past the orbits of our planets. What startled the scientific community most was not simply its speed or its shape, but the way its movement suggested an unsettling level of unpredictability, as though the cosmos itself was testing our assumptions. When Tyson revealed the velocity measurements, they painted a picture of an object tearing through space with a momentum that defied the gravitational nudges typically observed in such visitors. Instead of slowing slightly under the influence of the sun, Atlas seemed to accelerate at points along its path, almost as though hidden forces were propelling it onward. This acceleration was not random, nor did it resemble the predictable jets of gas and dust that could be explained by sublimation of volatile ices. Instead, the data suggested controlled bursts, like cosmic flares released with unnerving precision. That implication alone was enough to shift the discussion from curiosity to existential dread because it implied that 3I Atlas was operating under principles we had not yet unraveled. Adding to the strangeness, spectral analysis of the object showed a surface composition that shimmered between classifications. One moment, the instruments registered metals more commonly found in planetary cores, and the next, they indicated organics in quantities that dwarfed anything previously detected on interstellar objects. This unstable identity suggested either a layered history of catastrophic collisions or something even harder to rationalize, a design, intentional or not, that resisted the neat boundaries humans like to impose on cosmic bodies. Tyson's explanation did not shy away from pointing out the gravity of this finding. If Atlas carried such a hybridized composition, it raised the terrifying possibility that interstellar objects were not simply inert relics drifting through the void, but carriers of materials that could seed or devastate worlds. Perhaps the most unnerving portion of Tyson's revelation came when he displayed models of the gravitational interactions Atlas had with the outer planets. The data showed that its path bent in ways that suggested it had not merely stumbled into our solar system by chance. The curve of its entry hinted at a deliberate threading through gravitational corridors, as if it had been guided along a precise trajectory. For those accustomed to thinking of the universe as random and indifferent, this was a gut punch. If its arrival was not coincidental, then humanity was forced to consider the possibility that the cosmos harbors intentions, or worse, that other intelligences have already been active across the gulf of interstellar space, sending emissaries in the form of objects like Atlas. What intensified the fear surrounding Atlas was the timeline Tyson laid out. Unlike prior interstellar objects that simply zipped past and were gone within months, Atlas lingered. Its passage through the solar system was stretched, elongated by peculiar interactions that allowed it to remain within observational range far longer than anyone anticipated. This gave scientists more data, but also meant more opportunities to observe unsettling anomalies. Instruments recorded fluctuating electromagnetic emissions from its surface, faint but undeniable. The signals did not resolve into simple noise. Nor did they mimic the background hum of cosmic radiation. Instead, they hinted at patterns, low, pulsing rhythms that teased the edges of meaning. Tyson cautioned against leaping to conclusions, but the implication hung heavy in the air. Something about Atlas was speaking, even if we had no idea how to listen. Beyond the scientific implications, the revelations raised pressing existential concerns. If 3I Atlas is more than a passive object, if it carries with it properties or mechanisms beyond our understanding, then Earth itself stands at a precarious threshold. Tyson framed it not as a crisis of immediate impact, but as a crisis of ignorance. Humanity is not equipped with the tools to interpret the intentions, natural or otherwise, of such interstellar visitors. We cannot predict whether Atlas represents a benign curiosity, a dormant harbinger of disaster, or something stranger still. What terrified listeners most was not the idea of impending collision, but the awareness that the universe had just introduced a wildcard that could not be dismissed as coincidence. As the data continued to unfold, one element stood above all: the potential implications for life. Tyson emphasized the unsettling duality in Atlas's spectral readings. The organic compounds present could be precursors to life, molecules capable of sparking biology on barren worlds. Yet their very abundance suggested they could just as easily overwhelm fragile biospheres with incompatible chemistry. In essence, Atlas represented both the seed and the poison, the promise of creation and the shadow of extinction. This dual role positioned the object as a reminder of how thin the margin is between thriving and annihilation. Equally disturbing was the question of scale. Tyson's models suggested that 3I Atlas was not an isolated traveler, but part of a statistical inevitability. If one such object could thread its way into our solar system with such precision, then countless others may already be on similar paths, hidden in the darkness until they too flare into view. Humanity's instruments, though advancing rapidly, are woefully inadequate for monitoring every corner of the cosmic ocean. In other words, 3I Atlas may only be the harbinger, a single drop of water signaling an unseen flood. Tyson's revelation also peeled back the psychological veil humans maintain about cosmic safety. For centuries, people have comforted themselves with the notion that Earth, while small, is tucked away in a relatively stable corner of the Milky Way. The idea of interstellar objects, unpredictable, powerful, and loaded with strange materials, pierces that illusion like a blade. The universe is not quiet, it is restless. And every so often it sends a reminder that our fortress of atmosphere and rock is far from invulnerable. The terror arises not from cinematic visions of an asteroid strike, but from the slow, dawning realization that we cannot know what lurks in these visitors until they are already upon us. Tyson's announcement reverberated with a warning that humanity must recalibrate its relationship with the cosmos. He underscored that the appearance of 3I Atlas challenges not only the scientific community, but also cultural and philosophical frameworks. If Atlas behaves with intention, if it carries more than inert matter, then it forces us to confront questions about agency on a cosmic scale. If it is natural, then it proves the universe has far more ways of moving matter across interstellar distances than we ever considered. Either outcome is terrifying, for it strips us of certainty and thrusts us into a domain where human comprehension falters. The most haunting part of Tyson's revelation was not the raw data, but the silence that followed. For a brief moment, the audience grasped that this was not a distant abstraction, but a present reality. 3I Atlas was here, threading through the solar system, bearing mysteries that could alter our understanding of life, death, and survival itself. The terror did not come from fiery predictions of doom, but from the recognition that we are confronted with a truth larger than we are equipped to handle. In this way, Tyson accomplished what he has always done best. He turned the cosmos into a mirror, forcing humanity to see not only the stars, but also the limits of its own vision. Neil deGrasse Tyson's disclosure about 3I Atlas was the kind of moment that forces a civilization to rethink its place in the cosmos. The details already unveiled about its acceleration, spectral anomalies, and unnerving signals were alarming enough. Yet there is still much to examine that he touched upon indirectly: the broader scientific implications, the technological challenges, the philosophical weight of confronting an object that resists the categories humanity has carefully built. Each layer of analysis reveals new reasons for unease, and none of them diminish the sense of dread. When Tyson outlined the orbital models, he pointed to something that most people outside astrophysics might not immediately grasp. Atlas did not behave as if it were a passive body simply pulled by gravity. Its path intersected planetary regions with a subtlety that suggested awareness of gravitational wells and escape routes. While scientists are cautious to avoid anthropomorphizing, the implication was unavoidable. Objects of this mass and composition are supposed to be nudged, slowed, or bent in consistent ways. Atlas instead glided with the precision of a seasoned navigator. This raised an unsettling line of speculation. If not a machine, then perhaps some form of natural phenomenon so complex it appears engineered. Either answer left humanity facing something far larger than itself. In the broader context, Tyson's revelations forced astronomers to confront the inadequacy of current detection networks. Even with arrays of telescopes and satellites scanning the skies, Atlas had slipped into awareness only after it had already established a foothold in the solar system. This was not because scientists were inattentive, but because interstellar objects arrive with speeds and trajectories that do not match the patterns software is designed to track. Tyson highlighted that without radical improvements, countless other objects might pass unnoticed until it is too late to respond. The terrifying reality is that Earth's eyes on the cosmos are myopic, and Atlas is a reminder that the universe does not pause to accommodate human limits. The sheer material makeup of Atlas also invites uncomfortable possibilities. Its mixture of metallic core-like substances with abundant organics suggests a history marked by violent cosmic processes. It might be a shard from the heart of a shattered world, or the remnant of collisions between planetary embryos. Such origins carry haunting implications. If Atlas came from the destruction of a star system, then somewhere out there lies a graveyard of worlds reduced to fragments. That graveyard could be the fate of any planetary system, including ours, should forces of sufficient magnitude decide to intervene. Tyson's point was subtle but powerful. Atlas is not only an interloper, but also a messenger from a cosmic catastrophe, a shard of evidence that stability is fleeting. Equally disturbing is the question of interstellar contamination. The presence of complex organics on Atlas means that, if it were to interact directly with a planetary environment, it could alter the course of local biology forever. Such contamination might seed new forms of life, or it could destabilize existing ecosystems by introducing incompatible chemistries. Earth's biosphere, finely tuned through billions of years, is ill-equipped to handle a sudden infusion of alien compounds. Tyson made it clear that planetary defense must extend beyond shielding Earth from collisions. It must also address the subtler threat of biochemical disruption. The terror lies not only in the prospect of impact, but in the silent arrival of chemistry capable of rewriting life itself. Tyson's presentation further underscored how limited humanity's models of interstellar space truly are. For decades, scientists assumed that interstellar objects would be exceedingly rare, and their discoveries would be events spaced by centuries. The rapid appearance of 3 such objects in only a handful of years shattered that assumption. If Atlas is part of a wider population, then the galaxy is littered with travelers whose paths are invisible until they fall across our instruments. This forces a sobering realization: the solar system is not isolated. It is part of a web of interstellar highways where fragments, emissaries, and perhaps more intentional constructs flow. The terror arises from realizing that Earth is not a secluded sanctuary, but a node vulnerable to encounters we cannot control. Beyond astrophysics, Tyson's disclosure reverberated into the realms of culture and philosophy. He posed the question: what does it mean if an object like Atlas is not entirely natural? If its acceleration, emissions, and trajectory hint at intelligence, then humanity must face the possibility that it is not alone. That possibility is terrifying not because of Hollywood notions of alien invasion, but because it forces a reordering of human history. Everything civilizations have built, every narrative about uniqueness and isolation, could collapse under the recognition that other actors have crossed these gulfs long before us. Atlas then becomes more than a rock. It becomes a probe, a relic, or an envoy that rewrites the story of existence. The signals Atlas emitted provided one of the darkest moments in Tyson's revelation. Electromagnetic pulses with repeating structures suggested rhythms that did not easily map to natural processes. While no one dared label them communication, the implication hung heavy. Rhythms imply cycles, and cycles imply intention. The unsettling part is that humanity does not yet have the code to interpret them. Tyson urged caution, emphasizing that to leap to conclusions risks falling into fantasy. But the terror stems precisely from that ambiguity. The signals are there, and they are neither random nor comprehensible. They sit in the uncanny valley between noise and language, daring us to listen and fear what we might eventually understand. In discussing the timeline of Atlas's passage, Tyson highlighted something that should have triggered sleepless nights across the scientific community. Unlike Oumuamua and Borisov, which made quick, sharp transits through the system, Atlas lingered. Its extended stay gave humanity the opportunity to study it, but it also meant Earth was living in the shadow of a mystery for far longer than anticipated. That lingering presence amplified the psychological weight. To know that something alien is nearby, hovering in the planetary neighborhood, carrying properties beyond our grasp, is to live under a cosmic storm cloud. It is not simply passing through, it is reminding us daily of our vulnerability. The object's behavior also raised the specter of energy sources unknown to modern science. The controlled bursts of acceleration Tyson described suggest mechanisms that bypass familiar physics. Perhaps they are natural phenomena that mimic propulsion, or perhaps they are demonstrations of processes that humanity has yet to discover. Either way, they terrify because they underscore ignorance. If Atlas taps into energies beyond our comprehension, then the universe harbors capabilities far exceeding our current technologies. For a species still struggling with sustainable power on its own planet, this is a reminder of how primitive we truly are. Tyson also used Atlas to underline the inadequacy of planetary defense strategies. Current plans revolve around detecting and diverting asteroids that pose a direct collision risk. Yet Atlas reveals that danger is not always about impact. An object that drifts unpredictably, that emits unknown substances, that lingers too long, creates a host of risks not addressed by present strategies. We have no protocols for dealing with anomalous electromagnetic emissions, nor for deciphering alien chemical compositions. Tyson's message was chilling. Defense cannot be limited to deflection. It must also be about comprehension, about engaging with the unknown before it overwhelms us. One of the most disturbing implications of the data is that Atlas might be part of a system. Its precise threading through the solar system suggests it could be following a pattern, perhaps one of many. If there are more objects like it, past or future, then humanity is not dealing with a solitary visitor, but with a phenomenon of recurrence. Each recurrence increases the probability of impact, contamination, or revelation. Tyson made clear that probability is the real terror. Even if Atlas itself leaves without incident, its very existence implies others will come, and not all encounters will end so harmlessly. From a philosophical standpoint, Atlas reopens the ancient fear of cosmic indifference. For millennia, humans have sought comfort in the idea of divine order, a cosmos designed for life. Atlas shatters that comfort by demonstrating how unpredictable, chaotic, and potentially hostile the universe can be. If its origins lie in the destruction of distant worlds, then the universe is not a cradle, but a battlefield where planets shatter and fragments wander endlessly. Tyson's framing of this idea was terrifying in its simplicity. The cosmos is not here for us. We are here despite it. The psychological consequences of this realization cannot be underestimated. Humanity has always lived with the quiet terror of the unknown, but Atlas personalizes it. It is not a vague asteroid belt or a distant supernova. It is here, measurable, charted, and yet incomprehensible. It sits as a constant reminder that the universe is active and dynamic in ways we are unprepared for. This awareness is enough to destabilize not only scientific confidence, but also cultural assumptions. The terror is not theatrical, but existential. It seeps into the very foundation of how we imagine our survival. In examining Atlas's potential for seeding or poisoning life, Tyson gestured toward the grand paradox of cosmic biology. Life on Earth might owe its existence to similar interstellar carriers delivering organic molecules billions of years ago. Yet that same process could just as easily erase fragile ecosystems if the chemistry is mismatched. Atlas embodies this paradox in physical form. the bringer of possibility and the harbinger of ruin. This duality is terrifying because it reminds us that the forces that give rise to life are inseparable from those that can extinguish it. Tyson's warning extended beyond scientific institutions to political structures. He highlighted how unprepared nations are to cooperate on matters of planetary survival. Atlas does not belong to one country's jurisdiction, nor does its threat respect borders. Yet the resources to study and respond to such anomalies are fragmented, scattered across competing agencies and interests. The terror here is bureaucratic. Humanity may fail not because the universe is too hostile, but because human systems are too divided. In a way, Atlas is a test of whether a species can rise above its divisions to confront a shared existential challenge. The terrifying beauty of Atlas lies in its silence. It does not announce itself with fiery collisions or blinding explosions. Instead, it lingers, emitting faint pulses shimmering with contradictory materials, accelerating when it should not. Its terror is subtle, creeping, and intellectual. It undermines the assumptions upon which civilizations build their confidence. Tyson's revelation was terrifying not because he promised disaster, but because he stripped away the illusion of safety. The cosmos is not a backdrop, it is active, and sometimes it sends us riddles we cannot yet solve. This recognition leaves humanity in a precarious position. On one hand, Atlas could pass through and disappear, leaving behind only data and unanswered questions. On the other hand, it could alter trajectories, scatter fragments, or unleash compounds that change Earth's biosphere forever. The terror lies not in knowing which outcome is true, but in knowing that we lack the tools to decide. Tyson's announcement, therefore, was less about Atlas itself and more about the fragility of human comprehension. We are children playing beneath a storm, marveling at lightning we do not understand. Neil deGrasse. Tyson's revelations about 3I Atlas have already unsettled the world, yet there are still dimensions of this phenomenon that deserve closer examination. The terror surrounding the object is not confined to its strange physics or its haunting emissions. The fear deepens when one considers the larger framework of cosmic interactions, the implications for human civilization, and the questions it raises about whether our species is ready to confront the reality of a universe far less empty than it once seemed. One dimension that Tyson only hinted at but which deserves fuller attention is the role Atlas might play in reshaping our understanding of time on a cosmic scale. Objects that arrive from interstellar space are not simply travelers. They are artifacts of journeys that began countless millennia ago. Every particle embedded in Atlas is a record of processes that predate Earth's own history. By studying it, scientists are not only observing a foreign object, but also looking back into eras beyond the reach of telescopes. The terrifying implication here is that Atlas carries within it stories of destruction and transformation that humanity is not ready to hear. If its materials come from a shattered world, then the echoes of that calamity are embedded in its very structure. In this sense, Atlas is both a messenger and a warning. Its very existence proof that even thriving planetary systems can collapse into fragments wandering through the dark. This realization leads to an even more chilling thought. The universe may be filled with the remains of civilizations extinguished long before humanity came into existence. If Atlas is debris from such a system, it could mean we are not the first intelligence to brush against the void. Perhaps others lived, thrived, and perished, leaving only the scattered relics of their planets drifting through space. Tyson's announcement implicitly forces us to consider that we might be staring not at a rock, but at the tombstone of a world that no longer exists. And if such endings are common, then survival is not the norm but the exception. Another element of terror emerges from considering how Atlas alters the concept of planetary vulnerability. For centuries, human fears about extinction events focused on impacts from asteroids or comets bound to the solar system. These risks, while daunting, were at least finite. Scientists could track near-Earth objects and attempt to model probabilities. Interstellar objects like Atlas break that model entirely. They are not predictable. They arrive without warning, crossing light years in silence until suddenly appearing in our skies. The unsettling truth Tyson emphasized is that the universe has far more ways to intrude upon Earth's safety than we ever accounted for. The solar system is not a closed bubble, but a porous boundary constantly subject to forces and travelers from the wider galaxy. This has immediate consequences for humanity's ambitions to expand beyond Earth. The dream of colonizing Mars or building outposts on moons has always been framed as a way to ensure survival beyond a single planet. But Atlas demonstrates that threats are not confined to Earth's orbit. Any world, no matter how distant, is vulnerable to the sudden intrusion of interstellar wanderers. A Martian colony would be just as helpless before the arrival of such an object. Tyson's revelation casts a shadow over the future of space exploration by reminding us that dispersing across planets does not guarantee safety from cosmic unpredictability. The object also challenges humanity's technological readiness. Tyson underscored how little we can actually do to engage with Atlas. Our fastest probes would take years or decades to even approach it, by which time it might already have vanished into the depths of space. This incapacity is terrifying because it highlights how much of our response is limited to observation. Humanity is effectively a spectator, staring at an interstellar riddle without the means to touch it directly. The frustration of powerlessness, combined with the awareness of potential danger, amplifies the fear. We are not simply ignorant, we are unable to act. Equally disquieting is the way Atlas interacts with the concept of cosmic isolation. For decades, scientists have debated the Fermi paradox. If intelligent life exists elsewhere, why have we not seen evidence of it? Atlas complicates this silence. Its anomalies, acceleration, emissions, composition suggest that interstellar space may already carry traces of advanced activity. If this is true, then humanity has been living under a false assumption of solitude. Tyson's announcement reframes the paradox. Perhaps evidence is all around us, embedded in objects like Atlas. But we have only now developed the tools to notice. The terrifying possibility is that we are not alone, but instead already within the sphere of influence of powers or processes too vast to comprehend. The object's presence also brings into focus the fragility of human culture in the face of cosmic events. Tyson pointed out that while scientists may attempt rational explanations, the public response often veers toward myth, fear, or denial. Atlas, with its strange behavior and terrifying implications, becomes fertile ground for speculation. Some might view it as an omen, others as evidence of divine intervention, and still others as a threat to be ignored. The terror here is sociological. Human societies may not have the resilience to confront such revelations without fragmenting. A civilization divided by ideology and mistrust may fail to respond effectively to existential threats. Atlas further complicates the concept of cosmic time by its lingering presence. Instead of flashing through like a comet, it stays, hovering as though reluctant to leave. This persistence creates a new form of terror, the fear of waiting. Humanity is not accustomed to existential threats that unfold slowly but visibly. A hurricane strikes and passes. A war begins and ends, but Atlas lingers, a silent presence whose intentions remain obscure. Living under this prolonged uncertainty erodes psychological stability. People are left to wonder daily whether the object is benign or whether its true nature has yet to be revealed. Tyson also emphasized the challenge Atlas poses for science communication. Conveying the reality of interstellar threats without resorting to sensationalism is nearly impossible, yet understating the danger risks complacency. This tension is terrifying because it highlights how fragile trust is between experts and the public. If people doubt the seriousness of Atlas, they may dismiss warnings. If they exaggerate its menace, panic could follow. The delicate balance between caution and urgency becomes itself a threat, and Tyson's role in navigating that balance underscores how communication can decide the fate of a species as much as technology. One of the most profound implications of Atlas is the way it forces humanity to reconsider destiny. For centuries, humans have seen themselves as architects of their own future, shaping the world through science, politics, and culture. But Atlas reminds us that destiny may also be imposed from without, by forces indifferent to our ambitions. The universe does not negotiate, it does not ask permission. An object arriving from interstellar space is a brute fact, a reality that must be confronted regardless of human plans. This stripping away of agency is terrifying because it reduces humanity to what it has always been, a small, fragile species at the mercy of cosmic events. Tyson's revelation also invites reflection on the role of chance in survival. The trajectory of Atlas, threading its way into the solar system, raises the question of how many near misses occur without our knowledge. Perhaps Earth has already been spared countless times by the narrowest of margins. If so, our existence is not the product of inevitability, but of extraordinary luck. This awareness is chilling because it reframes survival as temporary, a roll of the dice that could just as easily have gone another way. Atlas becomes not just an object of study, but a reminder of how precarious our survival has always been. Another terrifying angle lies in the possibility of hidden mechanisms. If Atlas is accelerating in controlled bursts, then it may possess internal processes far beyond human science. Perhaps it harbors unknown forms of energy storage, or perhaps its composition enables reactions unlike anything studied on Earth. The possibility of hidden mechanisms terrifies because it suggests that what we see is only the surface. Beneath its shimmering exterior could lie systems, structures, or histories that we cannot yet fathom. This turns Atlas from an object into a mystery box, one that may never be opened yet continues to cast its shadow across our understanding. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, do you think Neil's new data on 3I Atlas signals danger ahead? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.